And welcome back to Bless Your Heart. I'm Heather.
And I'm Carlyle. And I know that we told you that this week we were going to be talking about Tesla and Egypt and connecting those dots. But Tucker Carlson just dropped an interview with Dan Wigington, and they're talking about climate engineering our skies. It is a subject that we could not help but jump on because we've been talking about it all along. I'm talking about pre COVID. I've been talking about what is going on with our skies. So that is where we're going tonight, and I can't wait to jump into it.
And I just have to say, Carla, don't you think it was so funny that in that interview, Tucker pretended that he did not know what HARP was or what Operation Popeye was? I was a little, come on, Tucker. Your dad was in the CIA, wasn't he? I mean, I'm sure he read about these things.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. It's like, why is he all of a sudden allowed to talk about 9/11 and talk about what's going on in the skies? I mean, I'm so glad that they're doing it, but
Yeah,
it's like,
finally.
why suddenly is it allowed? And why is Tucker they're like chariot? But we'll jump into that and see where it goes.
So let's kick it off with the bless your heart moment of the week. And I just got back from Key West and I had to fly. And I will say, my bless your heart of the week is our government and the shutdown and the controllers leaving because they're not getting paid, which means all the different airlines have to at least take one or two flights, they say, which ended up being what, 60 something flights to 90, depending on the airline. So it became a little chaos. So that is definitely my bless your heart moment of the week. What about you, Carlisle?
Well, it's funny you say that because my bless your heart moment of the week is going to go out to my flight instructor. Back in like 2020, I had like an insane fear of flying. Like it just was really ridiculous. I wanted to conquer it. So I decided to get some flight lessons. Flight lessons turned into 90 hours of flight lessons. But before I hung up my hat, I asked my flight instructor one day, I was like, what's the deal with all these lines in the sky all the time? Like, I'm flying 90 hours. I see what's going on in the sky. We're flying all the time. And he's like, it's just condensation trails. And I was like, no way. No freaking way is that just condensation trails. And he was like, yes, it is. So it's sometimes it's the ones that it's like right in front of their eyes that are either see it first or the hardest to make them believe it, right?
Yeah, it is interesting how some pilots are just like, no, it's condensation trail. Like they just completely shut me out. Like they don't even want to listen anymore. But you're a pilot.
Always been a little bit more awake than like let's say your average individual. Like 9/11 happened and I didn't understand why we were attacking Iraq when we had beef with Afghanistan. It felt like they thought we were just dumb enough to think that the whole Middle East was like
Yeah,
one section, but that's for a different day.
that's for a
So
different day.
for all the pilots and non-believers out there, let's jump into a brief history of climate engineering. So in the 1950s, in the good old Appalachian Mountains, right up the street from us, they actually proved that climate engineering does work and they made artificial snow in the mountains. They weren't sure how to prove it at first, but they found out like if they could fly in a pattern and it snowed in that pattern or in that particular area only, that it indeed was climate engineering. And so they did that in the 1950s, right up the road from us. You mentioned Operation Popeye. Operation Popeye was in wartime in Vietnam. They used this to seed the clouds to make the monsoon seasons last longer. It was so successful, 82% success rate, that it led to Treaty 4 with the UN in 1970s, which banned environmental modification as a weapon, meaning that it was real enough. It was real enough to need a treaty, but what they didn't mention is that you could still use it at home. You just can't use it against your enemies.
Yeah, it just makes no sense, right?
Yeah. And one other fact on like how it is actively being used today is China and the UAE, they regularly use the seeding of clouds. China bragged about making the skies clear for the 2008 Olympics. And Dubai had an actual like PR disaster not too long ago when they
Yeah.
over cloud seeded and they had all of these crazy floods happen in the desert out of nowhere.
That was pretty
So
crazy.
it's like that's the facts of like other countries and our country using it. But let's jump into what politicians are saying today with the beautiful like Maha movement.
Yeah.
and you could be on whatever side of the platform you want. You should care about your health. So we
Yes.
love Maha.
Yes. And speaking of health, we love RFK Jr. So he's even come out and said that there are, well, climate geoengineering going on, spraying in the skies. Also, another politician was Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, my homegirl, she stepped up. She said, listen, guys, like, I mean, and we did find out, through that interview, especially with Tucker, that they talked about how, it took them a long time to convince some of these politicians, because even the politicians would go and try and research, and they would type in chemtrails and they wouldn't get anywhere. And it was all done on purpose because they got ahead of it. So anybody who wanted to start questioning it, they had already come up with the word chemtrail. So you go to a dead end immediately. So the real term, and if you actually can start finding different laws now, you have to type in climate geoengineering. And if you can look up, or weather modification is the other word that you're allowed to use when you Google or use Brave or DuckDuckGo. So Tennessee was the first state to basically pass a law saying, anyone who is spraying chemicals in the sky or any kind of weather modification geoengineering, that it is legal, right? So it's like you are a felony at this point. Florida, it is called the SB 56 law. They passed this in June. And, my family lives here in Florida, which is where I'm at right now. And found out that it's a felony up to 5 years and $100,000 fine. So it's funny because I was on TikTok this morning, and isn't it funny how things just appear for us right before we do a podcast? And it was 2 days ago. There was a guy on TikTok here in Florida, and he's filming this plane, and he's like, DeSantis, for hours now, they have been spraying us. I thought you passed the law. What are you going to do about it? You're not doing anything about it. You just passed the law to like get you out of the way. So you're not going to get in trouble for it. And then I wanted to also talk about these operators, these controllers that we were mentioning earlier about this. It almost makes me wonder, did these controllers know about these planes spraying things in the air? Did they know that they were going to be held accountable? And maybe that's why their real reason is leaving, but they use the shutdown that they're not getting paid as an excuse. I don't know. That's just me, like, my mind wondering, questioning things. But
I
what
know.
about
I just I feel like there's not enough evil people to be like actively like in cahoots. So it's almost like they have to not know about it, or it has to just be government planes. Like near us, there is like where I used to practice, where
you?
we did our practice landing is over where all of the military aircraft, like they use those hangars so they could easily fly those planes in and out of there every day. And we'll jump into more of like the engineering of like how that happens later. But we need South Carolina to get on board
Yeah.
with banning spraying our skies. If they're geoengineering our skies, we don't want it, or we want to know why they're doing it. If they're doing it, we want transparency, because these things have consequences. And that is like what we're going to talk about. We're going to jump into the engineering of it all. Like now you were just talking about, do the operators and controllers, do they know what's going on, and like how we don't feel like there's enough like evil people for it to be some huge secret operation? Like it has to be a small group of people in like every town, or possibly because it says nearly all major aircraft are now equipped to release particulates for cloud seeding or atmospheric modification. And like, so the aircraft are equipped with it. Do they know that they're doing it or not? We have no idea. Like that's something that we got to look into. But why are these planes equipped with it if they're not using it?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And apparently from
And
that
it's
interview that guy was saying, like, I mean, you have to really make a point to change parts of the plane out in order for it to shoot out this aluminum nanoparticles and God knows what else is in this mixture that they're spraying on us. And I think we should really be kind of concerned about this. One, they're pretending it's helping climate change, right? They're trying to block. This is how it all kind of started. It kind of started in California, but there were politicians that were trying to talk about it because they're saying how they're basically covering the sun because we don't want the evil rays to hit us. And when the sun actually heals us, I mean, I can just have a little bit of a cold start to come on and I can go sit outside for 30 minutes and I feel great the next day. I mean, the sun helps us, and they're sitting there trying to pretend it's to help us because climate change and all this mess. But
And we're not trying to deny climate change. Like, it's very obvious the climate is changing, it's always changing. Do we think humans are participating in the decline of the world? Absolutely. I think humans like are trashing the planet and destroying it. But do I think that do we think that there's something that the government is doing and they're trying to throw it back in our face and blame it on us? Yes.
well, they
Right?
used to call it global warming, and now they call it climate change. So it's like, why do you keep changing the name? But anyway, but the
Yes. Back to why we should be concerned.
so
What is in the clouds? What have they found?
they're finding aluminum nanoparticles. And why this should be concerning is that this can cause all kinds of health issues, especially in women. It can affect your hormones. It can affect any kind of respiratory issues in people. I know you personally have had a lot of respiratory things going on with you, especially this last year. I will also say men's testosterone. It is 50% lower today than it has ever been. Now, it's kind of like a population control in my mind. I mean, why? But it all,
You know,
there's several other things. But yeah.
on the testosterone subject, it's like all of the men today want to get testosterone to help boost them because, like you say, their testosterone is dropping for like no reason. But if you go to the doctor, it is the same class schedule drug as trying to go in and get
Wow.
it is like that. The doctors will not give you testosterone. You have to go through a functional medicine to get them. You have to literally be almost zero in testosterone for them to prescribe you at the doctor test. It's crazy.
That's it.
My husband trying to get over mono. Like, he's been trying to get over mono for a year. He would like to get some testosterone to try to boost his immune system and help him get over the hump. Can't get it. It's crazy. So men's testosterone is 50% lower back in the early 1900s because these particles are being sprayed. So do you have anything else to add to that
Well, I would
before?
also say it's being sprayed on our food too. So when you go to the grocery store and you're buying produce, I mean, there's all kinds of wax and these aluminum nanoparticles and all that kind of stuff on anything we eat. So it's like you're breathing it, it's in your water, it's in your food. I mean, it's no wonder we all have cancer, we're all sick all the time, or we stay sick all the time. It's just concerning. It's just very questionable.
It's very concerning, and I always say I am way too healthy to be so sick all the time.
You are.
And, so Italy tested their rainwater and they found reports of graphene, which in the medical world is known as the vascular shredder, and polymer fibers. And why does that mean anything besides poor health effects? Well, these fibers have military patents that describe them as biological carrier platforms that can deliver substances via the atmosphere. So, how the CB virus that we had, how that parallels, there were 85 countries in 3 days, which connect the dot that leads more towards airborne dispersion
Yeah.
than anything. So it's like it spread so rapidly, and they blamed it on people flying and being everywhere. But the way it jumps around so fast just goes so much more into they sprayed it in the air.
Yeah. It's like if they didn't get you by giving you the vaccine, then they were by damn gonna get you by spraying it on you. Spraying them in the air, the water, the food. I mean, everybody was a victim to this, unfortunately. I didn't get the vaccine, but I ended up getting sick with COVID, I think twice, if not three times. And I personally think that it led to me having that bacterial infection. I mean, my holistic doctor told me, this just didn't happen overnight, Heather. Your body has been, whatever toxins are in you, I can't release it. Like some people can release toxins easier than others. I didn't know that. But hell, I didn't know I had that many toxins in me either. But, hormone stuff, it affected, I mean, sorry guys, if there's any guys listening, but it affected my period. I started having these blood clots that were very concerning. And that's one thing that my holistic doctor has been helping me with. And I be damned if they are clearing up. She is giving me progesterone supplements, and it is. I do not have as bad of pain anymore. I'm not, stuck inside miserable all day. I still can go do things, but before, I mean, I wouldn't even be able to work. It would be so miserable, and you also have that kind of stuff, but it's just kind of scary how it can affect you. And I went to the gyno and she was like, "Oh, it's just because you're getting older that you get these." And that I was like, "No, I need another answer. There's got to be something, right? It's not normal."
Yeah, it's so crazy too because back right after 2020, I started going to the doctor. I had all these chronic sinus infections. I was sick all the time. I felt awful. Like I literally every day was at like a baseline 3. Like my eyes were so freaking tired, but I couldn't sleep at night, all of those things. So that led me to the holistic route because I went to 6 doctors like ENT, allergist, regular doctor, you name it, I did it. No, everyone's like, I don't know. And then I went to a holistic doctor and she was like, just cut out gluten, just cut out dairy. And it's amazing how all of that stuff like just cleared up my sinus issues. And then we started working on my hormones because I had mono flare ups out of nowhere, which is EBV, Epstein Barr virus. Like all of a sudden, I had mono back in college and it was like flaring up. And I would come back from a trip and have to sleep for like a week. I took my ancestry DNA that I had done a long time ago. I downloaded the raw data and I put it into this, like, I think it was called NutraHacker. And I got this free report that gave me my gene mutations. And it told me that I had the MTHFR gene, which means that you don't process vitamins properly. Like, so it's because of folic acid. And like folic acid is so bad for anyone with MTHFR. And like 40% of people have this gene mutation and they don't know it. So if you're taking B vitamins and you have the MTHFR, your body's not absorbing it. It's like you have the interstate and you have the exits, but you don't have the off ramps. So everything is just going through you. You also don't detox properly. So, like, my detox pathways are already really hard to clear out. So, if they're spraying in the atmosphere, it's like really messing with me. I can do everything right at home, but if the sky is making me sick, if the food is making me sick, if the water is making me sick, like, what has got to give? Our friend just moved to Ireland. He had gone to 6 specialists living in Atlanta with all sorts of health problems, and they just cleared up when he moved to Ireland. And then on top of that, his dog got put on like thyroid medication and all of this stuff, and it cleared up when they moved to Ireland.
When I go to St. Bart's, I lose weight because the food and everything doesn't have all these. God knows what they put in the food. I don't even know, to be honest with you. I don't even know where to begin. It's like fake food.
So talking about fake food, let's move on to fake clouds.
Yes. So when I was younger, I remember, laying in the grass, laying on my trampoline, and just looking at all these fluffy white clouds. And I don't really see fluffy white clouds as much. I see more lines than anything. And then it's like after these lines are there for a while, they start to spread. And then over time, they become, I mean, it just becomes like a cloud, but it's not a fluffy cloud like what we're used to.
And it's like, so let's look at the weather in all of this. You remember the deep freeze that Dallas had a couple years ago?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
So that was crazy, but they had record low temperatures under 0 degrees. But in the North Pole at that exact time, it was like 33 degrees warmer. So it was like they already said that like that did not make sense. And then we already know that they have proven that they can use cloud seeding to make snow. So like was that some kind of weird show of power or something? It's like hurricanes.
Yeah. Hurricane.
What
Why
happened to
haven't we had a hurricane this year, Carlisle? I mean, are they trying to show us that they do control the weather and show us that, oh, maybe we maybe we destroyed too much last year, and if we do it again, it'll be too obvious. I don't know. It's just
Or is it like a show of power that they're like, we have technology that can actually steer hurricanes away? Because they started brewing out there, but they all just nicely just like went back out to the ocean. I mean,
yeah,
obviously, except for the one that hit
Jamaica.
Jamaica, but that's not the US, it's Caribbean adjacent. But still, that didn't even make it to the US, right?
Yeah. But I think they even messed with the one in Jamaica because it got so powerful so fast within what 18 hours or something they said. It went from a tropical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Which is
murder.
like Helene. We went to
Yeah.
bed with Helene. I went to bed with a tropical storm. It was pouring down rain, but it was like tropical storm. Wake up at 7 a.m. The trees are crashing down. The lights are flickering on and off, like the craziest howl of the wind. And then, like, literally right here behind me, trees just going bam, bam,
Scary.
bam. And
Yeah.
we're like, what? And everybody's like, what is happening? We were not prepared at all. And the poor people that were affected even worse than us, like we were probably an 8 on damage, but the people that were like 10 and above were not prepared, which leads us to like, did they change the path changed? So was it hard?
Was it
Because
hard? Yeah. For,
we
was
can
it
talk about
hard? Yeah, let's talk about hard. So, talking about hard, I remember I used to watch the History Channel all the time and then Ancient Aliens, right? On the History Channel. But I remember the History Channel a long time ago had an episode about HAARP, HAARP, HAARP. And it basically says how we can control the weather with this technology that we have. And it's in Alaska, right? And it's just gigantic area of like all these. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it, Carlisle. It's just a bunch of like not power lines, but it's like towers in the sky. It's kind of freaky how something like that can control the weather all over the United States, if not even further. I mean, who knows? It might can control overseas possibly. I mean, what if they're all in them?
yeah, it's an officially reopened as a ionospheric research lab, but it's long been suspected of manipulating pressure zones. So, like, what that means is ionospheric heating means pressure control, which means steering storms slash altering the jet stream. So it's like the show of power theory of like the hurricanes formed this year and then they just like moved on. It's like Hurricane Helene like made a crazy right turn and then just stood there over the mountains for like 6 hours. It's like Jamaica. It all of a sudden became crazy big. They talk about the floods in Texas, how the storm stalled over them.
But
So
yeah,
it's
the
like
sea clouding. Yeah,
all of these dots connect.
they do. And what about our wildlife?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that like you don't have to like Tucker. You could call him like crazy, but we need to talk about the wildlife because people are worried about climate change from the cows farting and the vehicles and all of this stuff. But like what we really, really, really need to be concerned about is like we are killing off our animals.
Yeah.
And like, is it the government? Is it the people? Something's happening. So
Yeah.
WWF 2022 Living Planet report average wildlife populations dropped 69% since 1970. The global forest is shrinking by 10 million hectares per year, which I had to Google what a hectare is. That's 2.41 acres. 10 million times 2.41
That's a lot.
is like 24 million plus acres that we're losing per
Yeah.
year. So we should be very concerned at what is
Yeah.
going on.
Well, because what they're doing is this geoengineering, it's basically thinning the ozone layer. So that is what's causing the trees. The trees are basically suffocating, come to find out, because the nanoparticles, all the aluminum and everything that they're spraying is going into the soil, and the roots are like absorbing all of this. And they're basically, from what this guy that was talking to Tucker was explaining, is that it basically suffocates the tree and it dies within. And it's just so sad. So then when trees die, I mean, that's what helps with our oxygen. So no trees. I mean, how do we survive, right? And then you look at
Right. But I wanted to add to that, when you say the trees are dying within, he also mentioned in there that they're closing their stomata, which is how they breathe. So they don't want to breathe in what we're breathing in to even process to then create more oxygen for us. Like they can't even, it's like the MTHFR. They can't detox whatever is coming into them via the ground and via the air.
yeah. And even it's affecting like the oceans. There's 90% of the plankton that's lost. And I mean, we kind of need that as well. The Plymouth Marine Laboratory was the one who studied that. And that's kind of scary. I mean, you have whales and stuff that are all of a sudden showing up on the beaches, dead everywhere. And a lot of people say that it's like driving them mad and they want to just leave. Is one article that I read, which I never even thought about. But it is very awesome if you
So
well, but comes out the
yeah,
ocean.
we're also doing all this like deep water testing with like blasting these loud noises and like blowing things up underwater. So we're like, imagine living in your world and you're just getting like pounded by crazy noises all the time. And you're like, this is not how I want to live.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's just
not.
not natural. What we're doing is like we are playing God and it's getting very scary.
And the bees. He mentioned the bees. It's like they're collapsing. He said 70% of the bees have left the ecosystem. And we definitely need bees to help populate flowers, food, you name it. And my apartment building, we it's a funny story. In my apartment building, these girls were moving out and they said, we've noticed a lot of bees flying around. And come to find out this huge beehive had somehow gotten in between the floor and the wall between the different apartments. And so we had to get a specialist to come out and take care of them because of this issue. Like they're almost kind of extinct. They're kind of treating them like that. And I had no idea. And that was my first example of seeing that. And I had no idea. But I mean, I don't really see as many bees. I see more carpenter bees here in Charleston than the normal bee, like honeybee.
Yeah. And it's like right after Hurricane Helene, I thought that just because everything was like stripped from the trees, the birds, like I started feeding the birds last year. I have like two bird feeders. They went from like the entire time that was the bird feeding time, there were constant birds, like four birds per feeder, like just coming in and out. And it was like I was supplying the whole neighborhood with food, like there was no other food anywhere. It was bizarre and it happened for a whole year. And now they've kind of chilled out, like they're not back, but it's like the animals know
They know.
what's going on
They know.
better than we do.
Yeah, 100%. Remember we were talking about when you finally see the aliens in the clouds when they finally show themselves, and we were like, just if it's real or not, watch the animals and see what they do. Because if they don't really move, then it must be CGI or uh, what's it called? The blue beam,
Project Bluebeam.
Project Bluebeam.
Yeah. So it's like we have all of these weather events going on. You know, there's climate change propaganda. We know things are changing. We know things are bad. It feels like something big is coming, but it's like the propaganda is pointed the wrong way. They're like pointing their fingers at us like we are the problem, but really they are the
They are the
problem
problem.
because geoengineering is known to affect the ozone in a negative way, and we need the ozone, and it's on the verge of collapse, right?
Yes, 100%. I mean, even the things like plastic straws. I mean, you can't have plastic straws anymore because it's hurting the turtles. Well, you're hurting the turtles by spraying all these chemicals on them as well. I mean, I would think that's worse than a straw.
Commercial fishing where they're all getting stuck in the net. Like, you're not mad at that.
Yeah. The hypocrisy, man. It's just insane. And like I said earlier, it goes from global warming to climate change. So we'll see what propaganda they name next. Um, oh, and yeah, you already touched on the cows. How apparently the
Yes.
cows farting. That is the biggest joke. I mean, and the chickens, the bird flu, the fake bird flu. There are tons of birds being murdered for no reason, and it's under the guise of it's the bird flu. Give me a joke. Give me a break. It's just a joke, in my opinion.
Yeah. But let's talk about the corporate and the governmental ties and profiteering that comes from climate engineering.
So I was mentioning earlier how California was one of the first states that saw a lot of this. And I think they really kind of noticed it because they used a lot of solar. Like they kind of started using, solar panels and things like that. So you kind of need sun for the solar panels. So the gentleman that Tucker was interviewing, that's kind of how he got into this because he was living off the grid and, he noticed that he didn't have as much power from the solar panel. So that's when he started noticing that things were falling in his water and things like that. And he tested it for 18 months, I think. And then, you know, saying earlier how the politicians went ahead, and I don't know if it was politicians. Let's not say that. I don't know who made up the word chemtrail, but they got ahead of the rest of us and then told everybody that was what it's called, like psyop, right? So they pretend that they're warning you. Oh, well, they always warn us. We just don't know it sometimes. But we're starting to figure that out, aren't we, Carlisle?
Well, it's like the chemtrail versus contrail. They're like so close to each other that
Yeah.
people are like, oh no, you're crazy. It's just a contrail. Well, I can prove to you that a contrail is real, and I can prove to you that a chemtrail is real. Climate engineering, spraying our skies, however you want to call it, they are two different things
Yeah.
and they both exist. They do both exist. We are not trying to say that contrails, also known as condensation
Right.
trails,
They do
they
exist.
exist.
Yes.
They are just different. You
Yes. They
know,
are.
it's like President Johnson famously said, who controls the weather controls the
Right.
world.
Yep.
So it's like just the fact that in 1976, that after Vietnam, they had to ban this like via warfare, but they didn't do it domestically. So it's like we're just now at the point, like Florida and Tennessee, just now at the point of states stepping up and saying, you can't mess with our skies.
Yeah. And there's 36 apparently other states that are on this list. Thank gosh. We do need to find out what those other states are. But yeah, it's kind of spooky how, in Vietnam, how they were able to realize that they could control the weather and took that and said, we're going to take that and put it on our own people and then say, you can no longer do these over war zones. It's just so messed up. But, a
Well,
lot of
the
military guys don't even know what's going on. So, I mean, they're just told what to do. They don't know that they're doing something bad towards anybody else. I mean, when you go in the military, you're supposed to obey, right? So you can't really blame all of them. It's just like we're kind of stuck in a situation, we just didn't know. And we're all finally kind of starting to realize that it's kind of a game that's been played on us that we didn't even know we were part of.
right. And they have meetings every year to see which countries want to invest in advancing climate studies for geoengineering. So that they like countries wherever they host them are probably like engineering some kind of geo event to like show the power of the technology that they have. There's no telling how much of this stuff is actually engineered. And when we start looking into these defense contractors, like the big ones that start with an R and an L and a P, there's big money behind weather data and defense systems. Like these companies are actively controlling the narrative, right?
Even our weathermen, they're even apparently controlling the weathermen. Like these weathermen, we're hearing from Tucker's interview that they know that it's being controlled and adjusted or magnified or whatever is going on. And it's kind of sad. So these guys are in on it. I mean, is the Weather Channel or AccuWeather or the local weatherman in your town, like, are they part of it? Or are they just reading a script that's been given to them and they just do what they're told? Like what we were saying with the military. I mean, are they kind of stuck in it or they knowingly are part of it or they paid? I don't know. Like
And
paid
it's
off.
like every meteorologist will be like, don't watch people on social media, they're not accredited meteorologists. Like it's really not that hard to read charts and like see what's going on with the weather. As someone who was in aviation for a minute, like we had to go in look at the METARs, which are your weather data, which tell you the pressure, the temperature, the winds, the wind directions, all of that. And we had to for ourselves. Well, they would tell you when you can't fly, but you have to interpret the data and then see where you're at to plan out your day, to plan out your path. So it doesn't take like a rocket scientist to read the weather. So it's always like when they're trying to control the narrative, like, don't listen to the people on social media. That screams to me it's because you're trying to control the
The narrative.
story that
Yeah.
people need to believe.
Yeah.
And, it's like who benefits from all this engineered chaos? Insurance companies, these giant military companies have reconstruction contracts, they have data control. And then when you get into the fear economy of like people being so scared and like the buildup of all of these disasters and whatnot, it's like who controls the weather controls the
Rolls the
world.
world.
Is President Johnson. That was so long ago. And you're going to tell me that they haven't continued that narrative?
It's been around that long, that long. That many presidents knew about it. That's kind of messed up, in my opinion.
And if you talk about old world technology, back to our old world theories, it's probably been going on since like who knows when.
Some of the things we can kind of like help ourselves get around this, right? So, my husband and I, when I found out about the water, especially in my local town, has chemicals in it, my holistic doctor actually went and tested it, and she told me what all was in it, and there's things in it that should not be in our water. And so when I found that out, we have a fish tank. So my husband was basically able to basically have a reverse osmosis filtration system, and it is the best water. It tastes so good. When I go and buy like a bottle of water at a convenience store or something, or even get water out of like your refrigerator, it doesn't even come close. Like nothing tastes as good as it's just crazy. You like bathe in it too. Like I'm even thinking about getting like a whole house filtration system. And the more I talk about it to people, the more I'm finding out that others are doing it as well.
Because that is like my theory that like our next I think that all of the emergencies are kind of engineered. So like I predict that water is going to become a weapon and that they're going to use water against us. They're going to start droughts. The weather is going to make it rain chaotically some places and have like really bad droughts in others. So it's like what you were talking about getting a reverse system put into your house. I'm seriously considering that for the future. So it's like other things that we can do. So you can get like look at your water, get a reverse osmosis filtration system if you can. Start getting loud. Florida and Tennessee, if you're in our home state of South Carolina, Florida and Tennessee are actively banning this. So why are our legislators sitting there quietly? So I'm gonna come up with a letter to send to our government. I'm not sure who to send it to, but I'm going to find out. And then I'm going to come back and tell
Send me that.
everybody. And I'm going to make that letter available that you could also join in and send out to your local government. So I am going to commit to doing that so that we can start being loud and proud. We want to know what's going on in our skies. You can test and detox, like find out what gene mutations you have. You can get kits to test at home. Go to a holistic doctor. It's a little bit pricey, but if you have an HSA or FSA, you can use that
Yeah.
money. You can dump money in. You can dump money in at your work and use money towards holistic ways of getting better. They can test your hormones. Women test your hormones.
Yeah.
Men's hormones don't really get affected until they get in their 50s. Obviously, it's going to be earlier now since they're poisoning us. But like women in your 30s, your hormones get jacked up.
Yeah,
So
we
what else can we
personally
do?
have been through it. Yeah, we personally have been through it, and we had no idea how much just your hormones being off, how much it can affect you and just have the weirdest side effects. And, inflammation is a big thing in women. And I had no idea about that until I went through this journey. And, I try and cut out ham. That was the one meat that my holistic doctor told me that inflames the mess out of you. So eating that ham at Thanksgiving or Christmas, if I do, it's going to be a little bit, but when I do eat it, I mean, it tastes so good, like a honey baked ham, right? I used to love those things, but I feel miserable now afterwards. I just feel so like my whole body just feels bloated. But they say women that have a lot of inflammation in them have trouble having babies. That's one of the issues that causes you from doing that. And you and I both, a lot of our friends, we have air purifiers in our house now. And that helps just purify, we have one in every room and it just helps purify the air. Just little things like that. I mean, they're not that expensive either. I mean, you can get them anywhere. But just
Yeah, and then it's like after you walk, since we're thought that nature was supposed to be so good for us, but they're spraying us with stuff. After a walk or you've been outside for a prolonged period, just do like a nasal rinse, like a neti pot, or they make like a motorized one now. But I'm gonna start trying to like nasal rinse more often. And then another thing that I wanted to do is like off of the holistic, but after Helene and all of the disasters I saw, that I really learned that most insurance is a fraud. Like, so you really need to be started thinking about having an emergency fund for yourself because, like, if your house catches on fire and it doesn't burn to the ground, insurance is not going to cover that. Like, if you have flood insurance and your house floods, but your neighbor's house, the three adjacent parcels to you, they don't flood, they're not going to cover that. If you didn't have a backup sump pump, they're not going to cover it. If your roof is older than 10 years old, good luck getting any money on it. A tree falls, the list goes on and on. I don't want to like ramble, but start looking at building, spending less money into insurance and more money into your own emergency fund.
yeah. And let's start questioning the skies and start holding our politicians accountable. I mean, if we finally have some politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene and RFK Jr. backing us, and I even think Trump's might have even said something along the way. I'll need to pull that exact video, but I believe he's even mentioned it's something's odd, in the sky, or there's something other than just clouds. He always says it in a witty way that, you have to really be paying attention to catch it. But I definitely think this is a start, with people like Tucker finally starting to talk about this. It's a good sign that maybe we're finally going to be able to start making some changes and not be scared to say anything because people would always think we were crazy, didn't they, Carl?
Like the amount of people that probably owe me an apology when this does get proven 100% to be true. Like to me, I feel like it's already been proven to be 100% true, but I will take I told you so
You
anytime
know you're never going to get that.
on that one, especially because I know so many of you that are my friends out there that I love dearly that now believe in this that did not 5 years ago. So I'm glad you came around, but maybe like look around you. If things don't feel right, they're probably not right. Trust your discernment. Like,
And
especially, women's intuition, men, you know what's going on, but like we know something's not right. We know that they're messing with us. We are the generation that is going to wake everybody up and we are going to make a change. And honestly, if the climate engineering is for our benefit and it's like to keep us from the world collapsing, we probably also like to know that. We just want to know what's going on.
what the heck is going on?
Like if they stop doing it and the world collapses, I don't want that to happen
I don't
either.
want that
I just
happening.
want to know what it's doing and how I can best protect myself from it.
Yeah, we're gonna save the world one podcast at a time.
Bless your heart, my folks. Keep questioning everything.
Go spill that tea. We'll see you next time.